Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today we are talking knives. Before I dive into the episode, a quick reminder that if you have not tried our time-saving meal prep meal plans, you can head to prepdish.com/MPM. That's short for Meal Prep Monday. And if after listening to this episode, it inspires you to get a fancy new knife, then it might be a good time to also try out the meal plans and have some veggies on hand to chop with that fancy new knife that you get. Okay, so for today's episode, I was looking back and I thought I had done an episode focused just on knives, like which ones I use and how to select one. And I really can't find anything where I've talked specifically about knives. So today, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to share one, like what I use, but more importantly, how you can find a knife or a set of knives that work best for you. So first, I do think, finding a good quality knife is really important. It's an investment, but I feel like it's a small investment for what you get out of it in terms of speed in the kitchen, maybe having a little more fun or ease in the kitchen and just helping you to be more inspired to cook, which, as you all know, if you listen to this podcast for any length of time, I'm a huge proponent of, being in the kitchen and cooking in order to, help you to eat healthier and have a healthier life. So I really do think a good quality knife is a key part of all of this. And I have found, so when I first started out on my own, like before I even started Prep Dish, I would go into people's homes and do cooking lessons, like one-on-one cooking classes. And one thing I was always shocked by is not everyone, but a lot of the people, when I went into their homes, they were using a paring knife to cut with. And, if you're struggling with meal prep and you're using a paring knife, start there. Like that, your meal prep is not going to be as quick as it could be. Like you can double at least, or cut in half, I should say, the amount of time that it takes you to meal prep. If you just switch from using, and paring knife is just like a small knife, like a small kitchen knife that you kind of like pull out of the drawer and use for random things. If that's the type of knife that you are using to do your chopping, then I highly, highly recommend that you look into getting a nice, good quality chef's knife, like a larger sized knife. And, don't be afraid of it either. It actually does, like once you get comfortable with a larger knife in your hand, it's a lot easier to operate. It's a lot safer when you're chopping vegetables. Some things like a sweet potato are basically impossible to chop unless you have a really good knife. I've found this out the hard way at Airbnbs. If I travel by car to an Airbnb, I will bring my own knives because I don't ever trust that an Airbnb will have a knife that allows me to do the cooking that I want to do. Anyway, so there's a lot of high quality brands out there. Before I share the ones that I use, here are the ones I use. So I have a lot of just kind of like smaller Wusthof knives. And then the one bigger knife that I use the most often, I would say, is a Shun knife. This is actually one that my husband had when I met him and I started using it. And one thing I really like about Shun is you can send it off to the company and they will sharpen it for you. And I think you only have to pay like $5 or $10 for the shipping and that's it. So they basically like sharpen your knives for free, which I'll get to in a little bit. But that's a knife that I've really enjoyed having. The other one that I have started using is Nakano, and that's one they actually sent me a free knife in the mail. So I've been trying that out. This isn't a sponsored episode or anything like that, but it's stayed in the rotation just because I got it and liked it and have been using it. So those are the three that I use. I have a few different sizes, but honestly, not as many as you would think. Like kind of with everything, I would prefer to have a few really good quality knives that I go to time and again. And I don't think you need a set of, 20 different knives for every purpose. And when it comes to selecting a knife, one place I would start is holding the knife. Like see if you can go to a store, or if you have a friend that has a knife that you really want, pick it up, hold it, see how it feels in your hands. That's a good way to see, like, gosh, I'm trying to think which knife brand. I think Global, which look really cool. I love the way a Global knife looks. You can Google it, but it's just like kind of this fancy looking knife. And I remember in culinary school, I had one of my friends had Globals, and but whenever I'd pick it up, it just never quite felt comfortable in my hand. And that's something that you just kind of have to try it and see what feels right for you. But making sure the blade and the handle, neither one is like too heavy, if that makes sense. They're balanced. Like if you pick the knife up in the middle where the two meet, it should be pretty well balanced. But again, you probably aren't going to have to do that if you go towards one of these higher quality knives, like a Wusthof or a Shun, or even a Global probably is like balanced in that way. But for whatever reason, just doesn't feel as comfortable in my hand when I'm chopping. So that's something I would say is make sure it feels comfortable in your hand. Make sure it is one of these higher quality. I do think that's kind of a way to go in terms of looking for a well-known and trusted brand. Because again, then if not, there's all these little things to look for. Going back to the balanced weight of the handle and the blade. And then making sure, I think it's called the tang. Oh gosh, I hope I'm getting that right. But having basically the blade going all the way through the handle versus the blade and the handle being totally separate and then them just connecting them. That makes a big difference. And I actually think with Wusthof, you might have to be careful because I feel like one of their lines that's lower in price, they don't do that. So, but that's something to look for, is that blade kind of comes all the way through the handle, if that makes sense. And then a third piece, and this actually is like, so you found a knife, you pick it out. I actually think one of the key pieces to having a good quality knife, though, is keeping it sharp on a regular basis. And this is a reminder for myself as well. I do not sharpen my knives as often as I should. I actually have, it's called a tri-stone that you can sharpen your knives with. And I can do it. Like I know how to use a tri-stone, so I'll sharpen them at home, but I do take mine in to get them professionally sharpened, and I'll say regular basis, but not as regularly as I should. So this is every one of you listening. If it's been more than say 6 months since you had your knife sharpened, look into it. And where to go, there's a lot. So here in Texas, like nearby, there's this knife sharpener that sometimes he shows up at different places, including a farmer's market. So I know a lot of times a farmer's market will have someone that sharpens knives. I have also gone into, I want to say it's Cutco, because I think Cutco offers free sharpening on their knives, and they have like an in-person store. It's technically supposed to only be Cutco knives, but a time or two, the guy that was working said, hey, sure, I don't, I've got some time. I'm happy to sharpen them for you. So I don't know. There's different stores that you can go to as well, but you'll just have to see for your area. There's different tools you can do to sharpen them at home as well. And those are worth getting. And that's something I do, is I will sharpen my knives at home, but I find that it just doesn't beat like going in and getting it done professionally. And again, if you get the Shun knife, that's SHUN. If you get that brand of knife, you can actually send it in the mail and they will sharpen it for you. Oh, and I just remembered this. I haven't done this in a long time now because there is that sharpener that's close by to me, but there is a company that we saw years ago on Shark Tank where I should have Googled it before the episode. If I find it, I will put it in the show notes, but it's a company where you can mail in your knives and they'll sharpen them for you. It was on Shark Tank. We did it a few years back. It worked great. The downside is you are, without your knives for a little while. I don't remember how long that was. Whereas if I take it into town, I can usually just kind of get it done in that morning. So, but sometimes I'll like stagger them too. Like if I send the Shun one in, then I don't take the others in, just kind of stagger them. So I'm never like without a knife. But yes, I highly recommend having a regular schedule of going in and getting your knives sharpened. That is just as important as getting a high quality knife, is keeping it sharp. Because and the test is always like if you're cutting a bell pepper or a tomato or something like that, and it's just not really going through, it's time to get your knife sharpened. And it'll be amazing how much difference it makes. And again, it's a lot safer as well. So in addition to speeding up how much time it takes to prep your meals, it will also significantly make it safer. A sharp knife is actually way safer than a dull knife. So something to keep in mind there as well. And then I'm going to wrap up with just, I know in the beginning I said, okay, if you're using a paring knife for all of your chopping, I would encourage you to look into a bigger, larger kind of chef's knife. That being said, I do think it's important to have a good paring knife. And this is something I've been playing around with. We had one nice one, and then kind of these other paring knives that we just used for random jobs, but they're never great. And so I was like, I think we should just upgrade these. And a problem though, and I'm actually gonna do a whole episode on this, is I don't put any of my knives in the dishwasher, but these small paring knives, it's because they had plastic on the handle, which I don't put plastic in my dishwasher. But then the larger ones, you don't want to put them in a dishwasher because they're gonna, even if they say they're dishwasher safe, it's going to like kind of ruin the blade. However, for our paring knives, I have considered, so I just purchased like a small Wusthof paring knife, and it says it's dishwasher safe. So I've played around with just throwing it in the dishwasher to make life easier. And I'm going to see how well that does. Like, does it really ruin the blade? I may even just kind of get a few of them. I want to say it was like $20 for the small knife. And so that is something I'm playing around with. Just, I have relooked at everything in our kitchen and what goes in the dishwasher versus hand wash, just to simplify, make life easier. And, but with a large knife, that I wouldn't even attempt to put that in the dishwasher. You don't want to ruin your blades and your knife by doing that. So in terms of care, I would recommend hand washing any of your larger chef knives. Okay, I hope this episode was helpful. If it inspires you to upgrade your knife, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If you are in our Facebook group, you can put a post there. If you're on Instagram, send me a message or, post a picture and tag me, let me know. And if you have any questions on it, you can always, either of those places, find me and I'm happy to help. I'll try and put some specific links in the show notes just to kind of get you started if this is something you are looking for. And then the last thing is a reminder that if you want to try out the Prep Dish meal plans, again, this could be a really good time. If you're getting a fancy new knife, we can give you a free meal plan so you can try it out and see how life goes with having your meals planned out, your meal prep given to you, and now you have your fancy knife and can just hopefully make your life a lot easier and mealtime more fun. So head to prepdish.com/MPM. That's short for Meal Prep Monday. And you can try us out for 2 weeks for free. If it's easier, let me pull up the number. You can text the number 33777 and the word meal prep, all one word, and you can get 1 week for free. So just get a free 1 week meal plan by texting. Again, you put in the number 33777 and then the message is meal prep, all one word, and we'll send you the link and you can get a free 1 week meal plan. That's all I have for this week. I will see you again next Monday.